Son, and my topic for this exhibition is country borders. My title is Are Country Borders Necessary? And my central idea is the lives of humans and other animals are affected by country borders, causing conflicts and limitations. Each of my posters represent one of my guiding questions, which are: how are the lives of humans and other animals affected by country borders? Why do we need country borders? And how would our world look like without them? My first poster has the guiding question of how are the lives of humans and other animals affected by country borders. It is a so broad question that it has its own separate title: Are the lives of humans and other animals affected by country borders? And here you can see I have a map of how the world looks today with country borders. And these little red dots you can see are current active border conflicts and disputes. I've chosen 4 to present to you. Let's just start with North-South Korean conflict. The conflict is an active war but with ceasefire. It started when North Korea wanted to unite all Korea with the ideology of communism, whereas South Korea thought otherwise with the help of the US, which disputes communism and fought for the capitalism side in this war. And along the war, so from 1950 to 1953, there was raised a border, and all along this border there is a DMZ, a demilitarized zone, which is there to prevent future wars. This has now become an animal zone, but sadly, because of this conflict, has not been able to become a stable animal park, which means that if the ceasefire would stop, probably all animals in there will die. Moving on to the next conflict is the USA-Mexico border conflict. The border is 3,200 kilometers long with 1,000 kilometers of border fencing wall. The conflict started as an illegal immigrant issue where the low-skilled workers from Mexico wanted a better life in the US, but this was mostly not possible because of the low numbers of visas. The well-known species, the pronghorn, lives from Mexico up to Canada, which has its migratory route over this border, which makes it harder for it to migrate. The next conflict is the Europe refugee border crisis, which is not a conflict between two countries, but between more. And this started after terrorism attacks and wars in parts of Africa, Syria, Iran, and Iraq, where the refugees seek a better life and asylum in Europe, but after the overfill of refugees seeking a better life here in Europe, many countries closed their borders, and this has become an internal EU conflict and a problem between the refugees and the countries. The parallel migratory routes of the European lynx and brown bear go over Hungary and Slovenia, which currently have closed their borders. And the next but last conflict is the India-Pakistan conflict, which includes 4 wars, mostly fought over the Kashmir area, where both countries want to take claim of this area, where the Kashmir people want to be independent. The border is 2,900 kilometers long with 150,000 lights installed by India, which confuse many birds and nocturnal animals. So the answer to the title question is yes, the lives of humans and other animals are affected by country borders. And now that we know that they are affected by country borders, then we need to know why we need them. And this is my second guiding question, which is why do we need country borders? And here I have the country borders can be classified in 2 different categories: physical borders, the borders we can touch, feel, and see, and logical borders, the borders in our minds of religion and ideologies. Here I've had the luck to interview a lot of different people from different experiences, and for example, Dr. Aaron Ellison, a senior research fellow at Harvard University, thinks that political borders give us inhabitants a false sense of security. Or Monja Savagerd, She works at the UNRIC in Bonn, the United Nations Regional Information Center. She thinks that political leaders all around the world want countries and country borders to show their power. And my mentor at the school, Victoria Labat, thinks that we don't need borders, but it's just a part of human nature to protect our own. And after this, I've come to a conclusion myself, which is I think we don't need country borders, but at present events like terrorism attacks and wars, many people need country borders to feel safe. And now that you know that I don't really think we need country borders, we need to imagine a world without them. And here I've had the luck to interview a lot of different people again, but I've also had the luck to have a survey for my class. And when I asked them the question in my topic, country borders, the question if they would like a borderless world, they answered me a 50-50 answer. So 9 out of 18 students wanted a borderless world and 9 out of 18 students did not want a borderless world. I've had the extreme luck to interview a global strategist called Parag Khanna, and he studies the concept of connectography, which is not the lines that separate countries, but the lines that connect them. He thinks that we can, through connections, we can reach out to make a peaceful Asia, a Pax Asiana, a peaceful Africa, a Pax Africana, or a peaceful Arabia, a Pax Arabia, or make a Euro-Asia, Euro-Africa, Euro-Arabia Silk Road. The Silk Road was invented long ago to transport many raw items like silk from China to Europe. After this, I've come to a conclusion myself, and I asked myself in this question, like the question if I think a borderless world can exist, and I think yes, because we're already reaching to it with organizations like the EU or NAFTA. And I think a borderless world would teach us more how to be human, and when we're more human, we would give more thought to wildlife. And when we have this borderless world, we could make a world union or a Pax Terra. Pax Terra directly translated from the Latin language means peaceful earth, and I think that my proposal of how we can achieve this borderless world is to connect to other people and truly understand each other. And when we truly understand each other's way of thinking, we could easily build up this borderless world. A borderless world is not a lawless world, so there will be rules, of course, and a leading government. I would like it as a democracy, and I think this is a stepwise process. First, we need to build up connections and empathy to truly understand each other, and when we have done that, we can remove the logical borders, the borders of religion and ideologies, and then after that we can remove the physical borders, the borders we can touch, feel, and see. And when they're removed, all living things benefit and find peace. My action I took was to let people draw their own flag or symbol of this World Union and Pax Terra. Thank you.
My topic for the exhibition is on the extinction of natural resources. So my key central idea is the extinction of natural resources impacts the world's economy and environment. My 3 key questions are: what are natural resources and how will they end? How does the extinction of natural resources impacts the world's economy? And what are the consequences of the extinction of natural resources? So, what are natural resources and how will they end? As many of you can guess, natural resources are resources that come from nature. These range from resources from wood to fossil fuels, and even air is a natural resource. We use natural resources in our everyday life, and water and air are some of our #1 needs. But the fact is that natural resources are starting to run out. For example, every year we cut down as many trees as the entire country of Panama. This is a lot of trees, knowing that it is bigger than the United Kingdom itself. Another natural resource that is running out is fossil fuels. And with these Legos in front of me, I show an example of how we use them. So, If I pick up a handful of fossil fuels in I would call them, I'm trying to show that if I pick and pick and pick, they will eventually be gone. And this is how fossil fuels are running out today. Even air is starting to run out. When we let gases such as carbon dioxide into our air, it goes into the atmosphere and we can't breathe as well as normally. My second key question, how does the extinction of natural resources impact the world's economy? In 2008, the oil prices rose, but they have fell back down because we have found oil mines and we have started to drill in very big amounts. This is good for the people who buy the oil because it's less cheap, but it is bad because if we keep drilling and drilling and drilling, eventually there will be none left. The natural gas prices change every month. And December they're the highest because it's cold and we need natural gas to generate electricity to keep our houses warm. In May it's the lowest type of natural gas because we don't need it as much to heat our houses. The world's #1 coal producer is the USA, with Russia coming in second. The country that produces the least coal is New Zealand. What I'm trying to show is that the US coal economy is bigger than New Zealand's coal economy. And this is true because 79% of the US economy depends on coal. When we mine for coal, when we mine for natural gas, and when we cut down trees, it leads to air pollution. This is very bad. And this is my third key question. What are the consequences of the extinction of natural resources? So as I said, when we do all those things, when we cut down trees, when we mine natural gas, we drill oil, it leads to air pollution. This can lead to severe health and asthma too. China, the #1 producer of air pollution, builds a new coal-fired power plant every week. If there are 12 months in a year and about 4 weeks in every month, this would mean about 48 new coal-fired power plants appear in China every year. And this is a lot, it's a vast amount. During my exhibition, I launched out a survey. My 3 survey questions were, what are natural resources and how will they end? How does the extinction of natural resources? Do you come with fossil fuel powered transportation to school? And do your parents work at a factory that produces pollution? I got very different answers than I would have expected. For example, in the first question, about 68% said that they use 100 or more trees. About 21% said they use 5 trees, and about 11% said they use 10 trees. I was expecting most people to say 10, and I was very surprised to see that they use 100 or more. For my second question, do you come with fossil fuel powered transportation to school? About 58% said yes, as I would have expected. About 16% said no, and about 26% said they're not. They do sometimes, like if the train stopped, they would come with the car. For my third question, do your parents work at a factory that produces air pollution? 84% said no, and 0% said yes actually, which was very surprising for me, and 16% said they don't know. During my exhibition, I went on a field trip to Energeticon. This is a location in Alstorp, about 40 minutes away from Köln, very close to Aachen. So Energeticon is mostly just a museum, but I even got to interview the head of Energeticon. He's a really knowledgeable man, and he answered all my questions with very decent answers. During my exhibition, I also made 2 actions. One was to create a website, which my website link is ars.sedorj.net, and my other action was what I would call a neighborhood action. What this is that I've started to recycle and use less paper than before. This has made very big impacts on our Earth. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.
And my exhibition topic is about oil spills in the oceans. My central idea is oil spills in the ocean are a serious cause of pollution and a worldwide problem. It is our responsibility to prevent them. Then my lines of inquiry are: what is an oil spill? What causes the oil spill? How oil reaches the sea? What happens to oil after a spill? And what are the effects of oil spills in our marine ecosystem, and how can we deal with oil spills? So, well, an oil spill is release of oil in a water body. Then the causes of a spill is sinking or leakage of oil-carrying vessels, or accidents at oil refineries, offshore rigs, and storage facilities. Also deliberate acts by countries at war, terrorists and vandals, illegal dumping by industries, and also like natural disasters like tsunami, earthquakes, and cyclones. Then what happens to oil after a spill? So well, first it spills, then it spreads and drifts. After that, there is a consumant called volatile, which evaporates. After that, it forms a really thin layer of molecules, and after that it decomposes the decomposer's name is photooxidation, which is a decomposition by the sunlight and the oxygen for the oil. Then it also degrades by microbes, and also after that there's a word called residue, which means which cannot be decomposed, sinks down to the bottom of the ocean. Then there are 4 main types of oil. 1, very light oil, like jet fuel. 2nd, light oil, like diesel. 3rd is medium oil, like crude oil. And then 4th is bunker oil. So, and all of them, they all decompose differently. Like, let's compare the heavy oils. The bunker oil takes like a lot of time to decompose, like months or sometimes even years. And then there are very light oil, like jet fuel, which take about a week or some days to decompose. Then here are some of the actions I took. So well, I researched on my topic using the internet, books, and journals. Then I also surveyed grade 6 and 9. Then I interviewed it with an expert who works for Shell, and he's a marine engineer, so he knew a lot about oil and how they clean up oil spills. After that, I also visited to a seaport in Netherlands. They told me some of the biggest oil spills in the past few years which have happened, and they told me how they compare it, like with graphs. Then I also did an experiment. So well, this is like my first experiment. So about a month ago, I put this seaweed in this container, and then I poured this pink thing. It's a motor oil. So in 1 month, the seaweed, it died because it cannot do photosynthesis, and it's like stuck in the oil, so it dies. So then there are ways that they use to clean up oil spills. They use booms. Booms are big barriers which avoid the oil to spread out. Then they use skimmers. Skimmers are light boats with vacuums, so they suck up all of the oil. Then they also use dispersants. Dispersants are chemicals which fuse with the oil, and they vanish the oil, but they take the toxic from it. So it still harms our ocean, but not as much as oil. Then they use bacteria, and I found this little quote, like nature takes care of nature. And I like that because we need oil-eating bacteria to clean up oil spills, and we need oil so the bacteria can survive. So, well, that was my presentation. I hope you liked it.